everyone, I'm Gray Barnard, and I'm joined by Tom Franco, playwright and psychotherapist. We're talking about My Alexandra, a play that Tom has written, that many of us have seen in its early stages and are watching develop before our eyes. Tom, thanks for joining us, and thanks for sharing your very personal story in My Alexandra.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to be interviewed about this project.
Tom has had a long journey. He started out as an actor, and he's done a lot of other things, and then that segued into psychotherapy, and he's fully trained and licensed in that field. And now Tom is sharing his experience, a very personal experience, with a character called Alexandra in a stage play called My Alexandra. Tom, tell me about Alexandra and what we learn about her as the play progresses.
Well, one of the main takeaways that I want to come from that particular character, this is about a lovely young woman who is very high functioning, but unfortunately has to deal with a demon, which is her diagnosis of bipolar disorder. But that diagnosis of what the character has doesn't define her as an individual. And so I'm hoping the journey of the character will help the audience get that. There are two types of bipolar disorder, bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. Bipolar 1 is a little more severe, meaning there's less of the depression. And when it manifests and one is off their meds or not stable, is the mania, which can tip into a psychosis or psychotic state. Bipolar 2, on the other hand, is more of that, because this person has disclosed her mental illness. Catherine Zeta-Jones suffers primarily, most of the time, from severe depression, and occasionally might have what we call a hypomanic episode. So there's a big difference between the two types of bipolar, and most people don't even know there's two types of bipolar. Like you say, Gray, it's lumped into, oh, that person's so bipolar. And when people say that, they really aren't educated. They have no idea what they're talking about.
They mean emotional, or they mean
emotional,
this person can have rage issues or whatever, and then they misapply it. So it's out there. People know about it, but then may misjudge it, or may say, well, why don't you just calm down? Or why don't you just get things in perspective?
Exactly.
And I guess the clue, right, is in the word bipolar, meaning that people swing between extremes. Is that it in its crudest definition?
Very much so. So a person can go very much to extremes. So typically there can be extremes, meaning that everything is wonderful, everything is perfect. I can do everything. I could clean my whole house. I can run a marathon. And then all of a sudden the person crashes into a deep depression. So there's the mania, this feeling of exhilaration, of I can accomplish and do anything. And then there's the crash of when they get depressed and barely can function. And so it's a brain disease that's rather complicated.
I can see why you wanted to put it on stage rather than write an article in some learned journal or somewhere else in print. You wanted to actually see this on stage. And we want more people to see it on stage. Part of this interview is to direct people to the My Alexandra play Indiegogo fundraiser, which you'll see connected to this interview. And also you'll see it maybe on Facebook, Instagram, and other places like that, and Indiegogo. I'm Gray Barnard. We're going to be back soon to talk more with Tom about the very personal side of My Alexandra. So stay tuned.